Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Chocolate Saiyan, Paul Hall, 10th Man, Adam Meakin, who else we got in there? Flatzoid and Righteous Force, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
Hello, hello, hello. Any evidence of a physical geometric Earth curve edge?
Black Swan.
What?
Any signs of Earth curvature at all?
Not from Banning.
Any
Out
signs
from
of
Earth.
Any signs of axial rotation?
First,
Now
need the
that's
actual
based.
curve to have axial rotation.
Yeah, gotta have an axis. We haven't got one of them either. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence, Nathan.
Any assumptions?
I've heard much from Discord. Anybody in Discord? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Or a curve or axis or anything.
Tumbleweeds. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No science, no gravity.
Right, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Seat of the pants.
You had a feedback yet, Tam? Have you had a response?
No, Adam.
Nothing from Dr. Becky, so she was the best hope for that, weren't she?
Yeah, I mean, got big YouTube channel, likes to answer all questions except the ones I'm posting, which is very civil, actually. And
wonder
haven't
why.
heard nothing since 2019.
I wonder why, Tim.
Well, maybe because I'm asking for cowbell.
Cowbell
You're
being
actually
scientific
asking-
evidence.
You're actually asking something that will validate their position.
Yeah,
You're not even asking for scientific evidence. You're asking for evidence of science. You're getting
Yeah, that's
done.
true. Right on.
yeah, very good, Chuck.
And any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Maybe that's a straw man too, because maybe the Globies don't believe in that anymore since they don't really fight for it. So maybe that's a straw man too, because they don't believe it. Even though their model clearly has one posted right in the middle of their beautiful cartoon. I don't know.
Hello.
Hello, Armin.
I saw the movie The Core.
What's up,
Yeah,
Paul?
Go ahead, whoever was in Discord.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying I saw the movie The Core.
Yeah, we've had that before. That doesn't count. About the R value.
Didn't even count as a good movie. It was horrible.
What about
Not
evidence?
a good movie,
CGI was
Chocolate?
just a rubber. The CGI was
Go on,
rubbish.
let's discuss the core.
Nah,
Go ahead.
the core was garbage.
Dude, those crystals were amazing. That was good enough too.
You're not talking about your meth addict problem.
I want an amethyst as big as a car, you know?
Any
Can't disagree with you there.
Any evidence of the R value? Moving on. The R value. Earth radius.
Would that be
The
product
same
geodesics?
radius that got destroyed by the Black Swan? That radius?
Same, yeah.
Nah.
Is that the one that you calculate by the drop in an apparent position?
What are you talking about? The horizon dip value measurement that they claim?
Yeah,
you could...
Well, where'd you get this all from? Because we used to get it from optical measurements. That's was the assumption. But if now nothing's real and where it was, it's all refracted, then
Yeah, that
what
was
is
back
this
in the
all
day.
coming from?
But then how do they get a tangent?
They don't. Not only do they not have R, they don't have their refraction based on R either. So when they say refraction, that started with the R value they don't have. They just don't realise it yet.
Whoopsie.
To find the actual proof for R, first you have to engage in a thought experiment.
Cue the wibbly wobbly lines on the screen and the harp. And now we're in space. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Are we working at the really is level?
Well, the harp music's
Always.
just played, and I haven't
Copy
got a
that.
wibbly wobbly filter to make it look like we're going back in time / to somewhere that isn't real.
Diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle.
And we're back in the
I
room.
do I like the space sound effects.
And now we're back in the room. We're in reality. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
That'd be daft, Nathan.
Nope.
In reality, no.
Well, that concludes the housekeeping. I was saying in the pre-show before we started, we had a full-on presentation from 10th Man on this very specific document that I was hoping he'd present, and I can trim out, and I will publish that separately, 10th Man, on this channel. So if you're watching live, obviously you didn't get to see the pre-show. There's a link below. It'll come out later on, maybe 3 or 4 hours after the live show. I published the uncut and after show, just the whole lot recorded without any edits. Anyway, I'll trim that out and publish it separately, so you don't have to go through it again, 10th Man. But it was a really, you did it well. You gave it was good. So yeah, either check that out later on this evening. But what I was going to say was, I was quite heartwarmed to see Mitchell from Australia and Red Pill Philosophy discussing, in a very relaxed manner, their ease in which this argument is self-defeating if any rebuttal is ever offered. So, in other words, the offering of a rebuttal leaves you in a position where you relinquish your own geometry. And the people who get it, to me, it's only a subtle hinter, but I can tell almost straight away if somebody gets this argument by the way they're phrasing some of their questions. And the example I gave was a guy called Stiggy, who was in the chat for the Mitchell and Red Pill video that I chunked out, and thanked everyone for subscribing and stuff, and thanked Mark Sargent, various other things. But the point being that is heartwarming to see in the comments, especially when people are in the live chats and they've clearly got a really good grasp of the argument. A bit like Spurs, but Spurs was actually, doing it live. You can just tell who gets it. You don't have to ask them to rephrase the argument back to you when they get it. They're asking, what's it being loomed over again? So it's not real then if it's loomed and things like that. They don't necessarily, like I say, have to overtly state that they get the argument. You can just tell.
Yeah, the back and forth with Mitchell and Red Pill really, without saying checkmate, they said checkmate every time they talked about it.
So really what the Globers have to say is the boats go over a refracted horizon. That's what they have to say now, right? The only option they got.
Well, they have no choice now, since we've never seen the geometric horizon, which is also what they say now. So I guess that horizon we're looking at is always refracted.
Weird. Even if you have to work out the refraction, 20%, I think 20% is the maximum refraction you can get in reality, and it's not even close to what they need.
Well, maybe if the horizon can technically loom above the horizon, maybe it's just the bending of space-time that just bent it into this flat thing visually. How about that?
Because it went through the donut's hole.
Yes. Sorry, just maybe too much. But
All right. When we're talking about the geometric horizon, we're talking about Narnia anyway. So
right. So yeah, as I said yesterday, was it maybe the geometric curve can still be found in pseudo-Riemannian force space somewhere, if they look really carefully.
Cue the violins and wibbly wobbly music again.
No, I like that. What Arvin just did was just smack him with some fiction, their own fiction. Good job there, Arvin.
Thanks. Oh, talking about fiction, did anybody see that pretty long video that I posted? It was a BBC production. My God, that was like the most social engineered, high-tech sponsored YouTube thing that I've ever seen. Anybody look at that? I looked through all of it because it was just so mind-boggling thick.
Just assume we haven't and tell us. Just fill us in. Give us the broad strokes.
Okay. Well, it was a show that was like about math addicts, people that were really into math and science. Yes, you can already feel it coming. So everything, they brought up technology, they brought up conceptual approaches and statistical averages. It was kind of like a school thing on YouTube for pretty relatively smart kids, but just the engineering and the social elements that were interjected in there, supposedly hidden, everybody of us can see that. It was so thick on top that it strangled me sometimes, but it was fascinating to see it. And yeah, a lot of bright colors, everybody was always smiling and everything, and oof.
Did you say it was math addicts?
Math with an A.
Yeah, math addicts.
Yeah, I think that the show was even called that. Let me check back. I did post a link of it.
Well, if it's math addicts, I wouldn't trust it because in that community, there's quite a division.
Yeah. No,
the problems.
It's from the channel of the Royal Institution. Oh, the video has 666 upvotes for some reason. That's odd. Yeah, it's Christmas Lectures 2019. It was posted 17th February from the Royal Institution. That's the channel name.
Yeah, I grew up on them, Owen. Back in back in the days when I was sort of 13, 14, Christmas lectures were one of the things that as math addicts used to really look forward to. I used to love the Christmas lectures. They were stuff that was done at level for kids, and
right.
Amazing stuff.
Extremely impressive. So I watched through the whole thing. They even did really impressive camera shots. It's like every department that was involved was trying to show off their skills in some way. Serious. Just look at the thing.
As we're in the, I keep saying violins, I meant to say harp, but as we're in the back in the day bit, this might ring a bell for Adam, as you're a Brit. So when I was a very young kid, I've always been an insomniac. My eldest kid is also an insomniac, which is a proper pain in the arse. Anyway, back when I was a kid, I used to be up all night, not sleeping. And one of the things that they'd have out on TV for people to record with their 1980s VHS recorders was the Open University. And they put it out at a time that there was nothing else obviously being aired, very low, people watching TV at 2, 3 in the morning. And like I say, the idea was that you recorded it and then you watched it back later for your Open University course. But essentially, it meant that you got free education. If you were up that late, I didn't have a video recorder, but I'd just watch them all live. So it's like free education from the Open University if you were prepared to stay up late enough. Did you ever use that?
I remember many a night like that, mate. There was at uni as well. It was still only 4 channels back then, weren't they? It was
Right.
what we'd do. We'd be watching Time Teas, and there'd be sod all TV. So I remember the standard routine would be watch about an hour and a half of the Mahabharat reruns, and then that'd finish, and then you'd be over onto the Open University, and there was tons of stuff in there. I remember my actual dissertation that I did was on it was on lavender oils, essential oils, and use of those in replacement of pharmaceuticals. And I actually got my dissertation idea from an Open University thing that we sat there. Late one evening, it came up, and it was using it on medical wards in this to calm patients. So yeah, I mean, it used to be amazing. You can see why it was free education and very high level. It was degree standard, wasn't it? It was designed for.
I had no idea. I didn't know what at the age I was watching it. Number one, I didn't know what a university was, and I certainly had no idea that it was at any particular level. It was just something that was on TV for a kid that wasn't sleeping. So I'd just watch it and soak it all up because I thought it was fascinating, not for any other reason or because I was doing a course. Literally just because you're a little bit older than I am, so you can imagine you're probably doing your university course while I'm a kid up in his shorts.
Yeah. Great jumpers, as I remember from all those things. Home knits, some rather.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Very, very 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, mate, it was very interesting that's no longer there. That was part of the free access that the BBC used to provide as well. It was part of the license fee, wasn't it? It was all that spare airtime was used to give real high quality information that was degree unbiased education. It wasn't mainstream narrative. It was literally straight out of the lecture halls of what was being currently taught. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Open University not just by name only. It was precisely what it said on the tin.
It's not like Brian Cox coming on now. It was,
Well, it was a lot.
It
more
wasn't
dry.
designed as entertainment. It was designed as actually there as part of your degree course. But
I was going to say it's far more dry. There was no edits and transitions. There was just men in knitted jumpers, and it wasn't what you consider, whatever they call the sky at night. It was more like that than it would be a Brian Cox presentation.
Yeah.
I've got somebody presenting something that's going to get me a copyright strike, probably.
It's just the fragment of the show. Look at the freaking thing that they just put in there. It's just a giant checkerboard with a double staircase.
That's the Royal Institute, mate.
I can't put it on screen. I'll get a copyright strike. If you can pause it and scrub through it, I'll put it up. But don't play it.
Just the one picture. I didn't have any volume up or anything. Never mind. I just wanted to show.
It's the moving images. As long as you scrub through it, don't play. Just scrub.
Okay.
And then comment. I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Right. Well, it is.
Is that a shadow?
It's a giant checkerboard up to a staircase with two statues beside it. Look at the paintings of it. Yeah, it looks all pretty incredible and very heavily influenced by Freemasonry. But that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, since it is the Royal Institute after all, as you said. But they did show it off, like in the middle of the show. They did a walkthrough in order to demonstrate the technology and stability of drones, which they also advertised in this, among other things, like AI robots and all kinds of stuff. This hour is chock full of technological updates, as it were. So yeah, I thought it was very condensed, intense to watch, full of propaganda too, but still interesting
stuff.
Is that the one they started with flipping the bike in the studio?
Say again, Chocolate?
Arwen?
Yes.
Is that the one where they...
Yes. With the intro stunt. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they got something for everyone to like in there.
Yeah, I didn't watch all of it because I was just like, I don't know what this is about. The guy flipped the bike in the studio, okay? But
yeah. Let me see if I can find the moment. There you go.
Oh, you're not sharing anymore, though.
Oh, wait, yeah, that's right.
Well, while you're sharing, quick shout out to Steve ALM.
I still just see the green pants.
Hold on one sec. Hold on. quick shout out to Steve ALM, my latest channel member, who's joined as a lion. So big shout out to you, Steve ALM. Thank you very much for joining. Right, Arwin, do you want me to put it on?
Well, you want to see it?
Scrub, don't play.
Oh yeah, but it's a stunt. He basically enters on a.
It's not that serious, Robin.
I don't care what it is. Don't play it. Just scrub.
Right, metronomes.
Can I just ask a question?
Never mind. It's just let's move on.
Or just scrub through it.
Can I just ask a question?
Oh, hold on. Don't tease the audience, Arwin. Just scrub through it.
But I can't find the moment where he's actually midair. Oh wait, here it is. I think. There. Hello.
While you're doing that, I'll just explain why I'm so fussy about it. Right, the team that's put these images together as a video have produced it. They've spent money. They've paid people to be there, film it, light it. It's their work. It's not my work. Now, while we're making a point using it, just playing out him doing this stunt is unreasonable because suddenly it becomes my video and it isn't my video. Now, a lot of people don't get this about YouTube. They're like, yeah, but it's fair use. It's like, no. Try not to think of it in those terms. Unless it's absolutely necessary to play a piece. This isn't absolutely necessary. It's just a stunt you want to play.
I can't show it without playing it.
Yeah, I saw you make the effort. Fair enough, Arwin. You can give up at that point. You've tried hard enough. Go and see it if you want to see it. You saw the name on the screen. I'm not going to post a link to BBC.
Well, to me, what stood out the most to the video is just the overall intense effort they put into every conceivable aspect of what is going on in the show, in the video, in the looks, in the dresses, in how everybody's attitude is. It's all so perfected. And that's really what caught my attention throughout the whole thing, because it does have some typical repulsive, statist programming in there as well. And the social justice warrior idea and all that is still in there. But despite all of that, it was still just so condensed that it was pretty much worth watching the entire hour. So,
Can I ask something?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's with the damn green pants?
Yeah. You caught that one, did you?
Green
That's
pants.
a 70s throwback.
You have to fill me in. I'm colorblind. What is this?
Green pants, red hair.
Yep. Black sweater.
Matches your icon,
her.
Flatzoid.
Okay. Sorry, have we all just turned into women?
Yeah.
What?
Who gives a shit about their outfit and the color scheme?
Matters a lot. Fashion is very important to women.
Sorry. Quick, somebody play a harp.
Just kidding. No. But that did stand out to me. But hey, like the color was even like a thing in here as well. Because they were giving somebody a red mask and then like find the yellow balloon among the orange ones and then go by hints of the public. And it was like a social experiment that they did.
No, I've seen this bit. I've seen this clip used before. It's in terms of medical diagnosis, isn't it? In terms of predictions, making predictions with limited information.
Right. Yeah, you're correct.
Right, statistical.
So you've got to guess where the balloon is. So you pop the balloon first, you have a guess where the yellow balloon is, and then she's no idea. Now the next guess, all she's allowed to be told is it above, below, left or right? So it's just showing how with limited information, you can draw more accurate conclusions. And within 2 or 3 guesses, she actually gets the right balloon. So.
Yeah, within 2. Then it explodes in a ball of fire. Anyway, enough.
It's kind of excusing, I think, in a way to how modern medicine is not necessarily, is more probability based than diagnosis rather than a definition of direct causality. So I think that was an analogy for that we can get the right thing and fix the right thing even if we don't specifically know.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to interrupt you for. Yeah, but you're right. That's exactly what I wanted to say. To give trust in, the system's got mechanisms to get things right, even if if not everything is known.
This is where Adam needs a lot of props, because I hope you don't mind me speaking for you when you're here, Adam, but on your journey, you've had a conflict. In other words, when we were at the stage that we were talking about science, what it does and doesn't prove, and the validity that it does or doesn't offer when the assertion is made of science, you were very much in a position where, well, lots of things I deal with are claimed to be science when they're actually a statistical analysis or a group study. And therefore you were left in what I would call an awkward position, but you battled through it.
We're funny like that because we're multidisciplined pharmacists. We're not doctors, so we're not got a head in that, and we're physicists as well. We're formulation scientists, and certainly when you then get into medicines, efficacy of drugs, it's made quite clear to us as pharmacists. This is no longer the science. We're now in probabilities, studies, because drugs don't work the same in everyone. You know, it's not just a cause and effect relationship. There is science in there in terms of the direct pharmacology, but when we're talking about medicine per se, I wouldn't put it in to direct everything we do being cause and effect and therefore science. A lot of it is, as they're demonstrating there, probability based, very educated, but still probability based. And so I suppose when given that question, Nath, yeah, it was probably easier for me in my discipline to separate the two, because professionally we are having to do that and recognize the limitations of what certain things provide and what other things don't. But even so, yeah, it's still tough. There's certain bits that you actually go, that you do held to, that you do actually have to go, hold up, if I am being intellectually honest with myself here and really appraising my profession, bloody hell, there's huge parts of it that sit well outside of that remit, that I would have happily have used the term science in it, and it does require a re-evaluation.
Yeah, same applies to Dr. John Dee. So, you know, he was, I don't want to say arguing with me, but, you know, kind of a tacit agreement would be reached and then a complete contradiction would follow for the first, you know, email exchange between he and I, while I was literally only just getting to grips with the whole contradiction in terms of scientific assertions that are made in the mainstream with bullshit and heliocentrism. The list goes on. But the same thing applies, and, you know, the other side is a much greener pasture, though.
I mean, props to QE. That was before I met him, but seeing some of his old school stuff, it was him that kind of firmed that up in terms of making me address it and look at it. So by the time you were talking to John Dee and we'd had a chat in the back, I was pretty cool on being critical of my previous assumptions, or what I would call science, you know what I mean, and being critical of myself. I'd kind of come to terms with what was and what wasn't. And I think it is very difficult. If you, like you say, if you talk about Dr. Becky, a whole field, it's very difficult to look at that and then come to the conclusion that none of it is science. Do you know what I mean? It is a tough decision, but like with John, I mean, you kept plugging away and talking with him, and eventually you keep going through it. You do, if you're honest about what the definition is and you apply it as the scientist you claim you are, you're only left with certain conclusions, which is to rejudge everything via the correct statement of the scientific method.
The weird thing with Dr. John Dee was that he instantly recognised the point I made and immediately agreed. So, but then he had the battle that we've just described. I won't rehash it with him not here, it's unfair. But ultimately speaking, you know, I'm sure you've described it before in terms of the way I can't really go through this in a concise way because you've described it over a very long period about how the education system would train you and how they'd start with a confliction at maybe A level, with things like Cavendish and then move on to completely decry it and give you another level of bullshit. In other words, the kind of way you go through the education system leaves you with a self-made or self-serving method in your own brain to conflict with something that you've already been educated in. So what I'm trying to say is that at a base level, you were the same. You completely understood what the scientific method was, what it offered, and how it was empirical. But yet you also understood how lots of other things didn't have that. But we're still science, right? Kind of. But you understood it at both levels. So yeah, it's an interesting one when you're dealing with academics, but certainly not with people like Dr. Becky, because it's not like there's nothing she can hang her hat on that's scientific, literally nothing. So in order to accept first the premise that anything that they're asserting has no validity in science because it hasn't established a cause of an effect, she would rebel against that immediately. There would be no immediate, yeah, I understand that. However, there's certain realms of study, it wouldn't be any of that. There wouldn't be a concession. I just don't think you'd get even that far with someone like her, or any of the fields, astronomy, cosmology, astrophysics, any of them. They're all pseudosciences, so they're not going to have anything to hang their hat on, hence the housekeeping question, any valid hypothesis, because they don't have any. Cue Chocolate with the Michio Kaku quote. Probably dealing with something.
What happened? What did I miss?
I just said cue Chocolate saying the Michio Kaku quote.
Nobody in our field or my field uses or knows scientific method. It's seat of the pants. It's guesswork. Leaps of logic. Michio Kaku.
That's the point. I think if you are honest, there's plenty of science that has most likely done in his past, but and got him into the position where he is. But he's honest enough now. It's a bit like the legal disclaimer. It's a model. He's telling the general public that that's fine. I am a scientist, but what we're doing now is not science. He's being totally honest with you. It's guesswork, it's conjecture, it's fantasy stuff, and that's again part of the system, isn't it? They have to tell you the truth of what they're.
Well, I got props from QE the other day. I think it might have been even on Bullbusters. So he explained that I'd made a point a few times that he hadn't quite twigged, and then he's like, "Now I get what you're saying." And it was in regards to Andrew Thomas Young. So he's saying the horizon as a physical entity, geometric considerations and all, is a thought experiment. And that, to me, is the disclaimer that would leave them in a position to essentially just turn their nose up at anybody that sneered and say, well, you don't understand philosophy. You don't understand how we've explained this conceptualization. We told you from the start it was a model. Now, your reification of that model isn't my problem. I understand that we're conceptualizing a physical horizon. I understand. What was the last example we were just talking about, Adam? I've forgotten already.
What with theoretical physics, you mean? In terms
yeah, exactly. It was probably dark matter and Michio Kaku, right? But yeah, all of these things are declared quite openly and boldly. It's not it's not.
I don't want to get kooky on it, Nate, but if you read in, Arwen will probably know a bit about this, but if you read into their satanic ways, I think it's within. I think it's called the Law of One. Their moral justification for being evil it's part of a bigger paradigm, and they've been picked to play this role. It's just how they justify it. But within all of their witchcraft and ways in which they lie and deceive to us, they're not allowed to not tell us the truth directly. The truth has to be there. And it's when you see these things like the Musa statements, all these, that when you put them all together and you look at the coronavirus, all the things that outside of flat earth that truthers look at, there's always this constant theme that the truth is plainly put there, like it's a thought experiment. We're not dealing in science. These definitive statements of truth all seem to be there. And like I say, if you do look at it and believe in that side, it is a fundamental part of their religion that they do have to tell us how they're mugging us off.
It's like reverse psychology almost.
I don't know if I'll buy it. I mean, I'll let Arwin put his 2 penny with him, but I was literally just about to decry all of that and poo-poo it. But go ahead, Arwin.
Now, there is a little bit to it, but it's also about like a legal system also, not just towards their religion. It's also that they can take a stance in the end once it really gets overturned or some specific thing gets overturned. Then they can say, yeah, but look at what we actually said. We did say it was a thought experiment, so we were perfectly honest.
See, that I can get behind. I can't believe it. So, of the 2 people I thought I'd be agreeing with, it would be the other way around. Adam, the reason, the voice of reason, and not talking about Masons and Satanists. And yet Arwin's the one who I completely 100% back every word he's just said. Yeah, it's the get out of jail free card. It's the get out of jail free card. We told you all along it was a model. Don't you understand philosophy, globeheads? That's what they'd say to you if you actually wake up to the reality of the obvious and observable flat nature of the plane we live on, and you moaned about it for all those terrified fundies who are like, oh, the Masons will get me. It's the fundy globeheads that are saying it, not us. Well, not here anyway. But the point is, no, they're not going to come and get you. They'd laugh in your face if you went and said, you lied to me. If you had the arrogance or you were so bold to do so, they would literally laugh at you and say, no, it's clearly spelled out for you as philosophy. You just didn't understand that.
I totally agree with that on that level in this world. The point I was making was in their world, the way in which they justify the things that they do and the way in which they describe their magic to be able to work is they have to allow us, go as cattle, yeah, the free will. Now, if we don't have access to the truth, we don't have the free will, therefore their magic won't work. So it's not my belief, that's my reading of how that they justify what they do and what they also have to let out to as cattle so that we maintain free will.
Yeah, it's explained by the architect in the second Matrix movie. So it explains that there's been several iterations of the Matrix, and the first iterations with the perfect world were rejected. But the newest versions had, at a base level, even if it wasn't recognised at a conscious level, the illusion of choice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're saying we're not free?
Well, again,
no.
The conclusion
we're
to
free to believe we're free.
In reality, no. But I'm just going to give you the example in the way it's left at the end of the third Matrix is to allude to the idea. It does it in the second one as well, when Neo's capable of controlling some machines in the real world, which doesn't make any sense unless he's still in the Matrix. But they're implying that he's still in the Matrix. So even though at an unconscious level they've got this choice, and some people perceive that what they've done is made a conscious choice, the choice isn't really real either. Now, the way I would explain that in the real world would be to say that you appreciate that the nature of your existence, the philosophical idea of living on a spinning ball hurtling through a sky vacuum, is just an idea of the world, a way of looking at things. Once you appreciate that, are you in any way free of the shackles of society? Do you still have to put on your straw man coat to go and register your car? Yes, you do. So the illusion of choice and the understanding of the nature of your reality, other than waking you up to the liars that they are, which gives them less power, what does it actually change? You still have to function in society. So yes, you've got this choice. Now, I'm kind of alluding to the argument where people say, well, what difference does it make? Well, in the vein that I'm speaking, well, not a great deal. But if you look internally and go, well, what difference does it make to you as an individual? For me, personally, it changes the world from being a very boring, figured-out place like in The Truman Show when he asks about being an explorer. The teacher pulls down a map and says, it's all been explored. It's already been figured out. There's nothing to do. Well, you go from that to, wow, we're in a world of possibility. We don't even know anything, really. Why is the sky blue? I have no idea. I can't give you an answer. What's the sun? I don't know. It's amazing. We're in a world of... It's like being 3 years old again. It's like all the wonder of my eldest child. I can see it with my own eyes again. It's wonderful. And you can start exploring these things. Also, all the people who gave you the bullshit explanation for why the sky was blue or what the sun was are immediately deemed liars. And you can ignore them. You cut them out of your life if you're sensible. If you understand what toxicity in people is and what parasites and psychopaths are, then you'd immediately recognise them for what they are and detach yourself from them quick, sharp, pronto, if you know what's good for you. Other people go back for a spoonful of bullshit. But my point is, it's generally an internal difference. The system you're living in doesn't change. The world hasn't unfolded. The world out my window is the same as it ever was. Now, at a base level, I appreciated, specifically when I was out doing a rep's job, travelling all over the world, I appreciated it was flat because it was obvious. I didn't appreciate it was flat in the forefront of my mind because I was told otherwise. So I questioned those things while I was making those journeys, but ultimately landed on the understanding that I had landed somewhere else on a sphere. Now that has been relinquished along with the liars that told it to me. Well, I say liars, in the vein of what we're talking about now. If you actually look into it, the reason we win our arguments is because they must declare the actual reality of their thought experiment when it comes to the horizon, or the bending of conceptual mediums when it comes to space. You know, you've got all of this stuff declared to you. The Michio Kaku quotes or the Musa quotes are all no different. They're making it plain. You know, you can think about gravity as being a force. At the really is level, it's not really anything. You know, it's the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. But you can think of it as being a force if you want to. You can. You as an individual. But you're being told by a third party what you can think. So understand and appreciate what the control in this regard is and how it operates. You're being told how to think. What your world is a very important part of how you are and what you do and your outlook on the world. So if that's controlled, you're controlled. If it's not, then you're a much more free individual. Does it change the world and the society you live in? No, not really. If you want to be pessimistic about it, you could just focus on that and say, well, what does it change? I've still got to go to work tomorrow. Yeah, you can look at it that way if you want to. For me, it did change. I don't go to the same job I did when I was privy to this information. Everything did change for me personally. But that's me. I'm just one guy. You're your own person. It should affect you in whatever way you choose to let it affect you. Or, as we actually experience on this show, rebel against it with great fury to fight for your conceptualization as the world being a sphere. Well, I've said all along, more power to you. You want to believe the world's a sphere? That's all it is, a belief in a philosophical outlook. Go ahead.
So Nathan, so it's the same as if they claim an actual curve. It's always going to be an actual curve, even if they say there's refraction. Would it not?
Yeah, you're fighting for more and more ways of twisting the world that you actually experience into the conceptualization and reification of a heliocentric model. That's all we're seeing. Now, it's quite funny with the Black Swan argument that the relinquishment of the model is required to debate the subject. That's amusing because it's the essential death nail of the globe model at the trench level, which I love. You know, typically you can just fight against the rhetoric in the trenches, you know, Coriolis effect being an example of that. Just deny Coriolis in the trenches and you can get the perceived win. Well, this isn't the case with Black Swan. You can't come here and just deny geometry as your defence and hope no one notices that you're essentially denying the very physicality you're fighting for. That's not going to go unnoticed, unlike when it's confused and double-speaked around Earth spinning and having two reference frames and Earth not spinning with the reference frame of air that's not bonded but spinning. You know, everyone gets confused, and then fighting for not having a Coriolis effect can slip under the radar as though it's a win. Well, the converse is totally not, you know, the inverse or whatever. The same comparison isn't held true when you compare it to the Black Swan. To say we don't have a geometric horizon is to say we don't have a geometric horizon. You know, it's just beautiful, right? Anyway, I'll relinquish the mic as soon as I've shouted out Passaway Toe, who says, hope we can have guests on who are in the fence. I think you mean on the fence, but yeah, I do too. I've already geared myself up this week for having a fairly quiet week in terms of Globeheads. You know, they've really got nothing to offer. What they have offered has left the people who've offered it in an extremely embarrassing position by having to do what I've just described, which is relinquish their own model in rebuttal. Wonderful. But yeah, that will dry up. There's not going to be too many more morons that just go, yeah, refraction can fight this argument. Like, it's worked for the last 5 years until they get here. So yeah, we're going to have a quiet week until something that they can use as a countermeasure will come up that they can come in and talk about and hopefully distract away from the Black Swan.
Nathan.
Hello.
Can I say something?
Gushka Marcus.
Hey Nathan, yeah. So I wanna tell you something about the response I got from Danny Faulkner. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear. Go ahead. Danny Faulkner response.
Yeah. So I messaged him on Facebook and asked about the gas pressure without a container. It's quite a long response. Can I put it in Discord?
Yeah, go ahead. Were you intending to read it out, though, I hope?
Yeah, so if I can read it. So he says here that there is a pressure gradient in the atmosphere with the greatest pressure at the lowest elevations and the last pressure at the highest elevations. For instance, at sea level, the pressure is 1 atmosphere or 14.7 psi, but at 14,000 feet, the pressure is only 60% of an atmosphere. Most people don't know what a vacuum is. It isn't a region of zero pressure. A vacuum is a region with lower than atmospheric pressure. Hence, there is a vacuum at 14,000 with much greater pressure below, but there is no container. Between these two, can you explain how this is possible? That's his response.
Is that it? Just a declaration that there is no container between the gas pressure and the sky vacuum. Just a declaration.
Sounded like a rehash, Nathan, of we've got a gas pressure gradient.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's literally the first thing he said.
Yeah, I was going to say it's
This is when I
absolutely.
point out to them, they're separate systems.
And apparently a vacuum is not really a vacuum either. It is in zero pressure, but then he proceeded to declare that just lower than supposed atmospheric pressure is already a vacuum, which is not entirely true either. There's a specific stated pressure level that the supposed outer space vacuum has.
Does he state 60%, Orwin, as a vacuum? He's saying 60% of an atmosphere, so about 10 psi is a vacuum because he's decided that this arbitrary pressure of 1 atmosphere, 14.7, is something that you define a vacuum by. It's less. If it's less than that, it's a vacuum. Well, that's not.
Yeah, I told you guys this a while ago when Zanuck was trying with his bullshit. They're going to try to redefine the word vacuum just to mean a pressure differential. So when we say any signs of a vacuum, they can say, oh, there's vacuums all over the place. Look, pressure differential.
But they're not saying that it's not separate systems then.
It doesn't matter because
they don't care.
Our question is extremely carefully phrased. I'll just repeat the housekeeping question, so you'll hopefully all twig where these are non sequiturs. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container? Now, obviously, the question is in reference to the assertion that the sky is a vacuum. So any declarations that involve the fundamentalist religious assertion that the sky is a vacuum is the whole point of the question being posed. So in his instance, he points to it and says there is no container as his declaration. That's not an explanation. That's his fundamentalist religious assertion. That the whole point of the question is based around his religious belief that he's never verified in any way, shape or form. So that's the point of the question. It's not an explanation. Nevertheless, the point of the question requires a demonstration so that you can actually show that this, which would be in line with the second law of thermodynamics, can be violated. You know, entropy is a very real fact of life. It's a law of nature. And entropy would dictate that the gas would fill the space. That's what gas does. Now, his ham-handed declaration that you can have a gas pressure differential with his outright fundamentalist religious belief that there is no container is merely a rephrasing of the question to include his religious belief in a sky vacuum. It doesn't address the question. The question is, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Not, well, we've got a sky vacuum and there is no container. That doesn't answer the question. It just demonstrates that he's a fundamentalist religious zealot with a belief in a sky vacuum without a container.
That seems to be what is his premise. The sky is a vacuum, and therefore you cannot have gas pressure differential within a closed system. Seems to be the fundamental of what he's saying. Now, I'd just refer him to what Zach Good Times for All did where we actually generated a gas pressure differential in a very small container. Now, if we can do it in a gas cylinder by just fluctuating temperature at one end to the other, then my answer to him would, to the best of my knowledge as to why the question's worded, yes, it's perfectly possible to achieve a gas pressure differential in a container. But to achieve gas pressure, you do need a container.
So you need a container, full stop.
You just went right back to the Fundy response of, oh, we have a pressure gradient. Well, Dr. Danny Faulkner, how do we have this gas pressure in the first place?
Exactly. So gas pressure gradient is delta X, and we're asking for X. How do you have X without a container? The container being the antecedent for gas pressure. So you're measuring it in PSI, and your square inch value that you're going to get is of the container that it's going to press upon. Now, if it doesn't have a container, all it's going to do is expand to fill whatever volume is available for it to expand into. Now, if that volume is a claimed sky vacuum, the gas would expand into it. Or, as per the second law of thermodynamics, if the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill the space. Yeah, useless response. We've already heard it. But thank you for reading it out.
Can I ask one more thing? Sorry.
Of course you can.
So basically, this is just an assertion from his religious belief, and then you're saying that this is not, he's not capable of demonstrating this. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the question he's addressing is how can you have gas pressure without a container? Well, he hasn't demonstrated it beyond his assertion that there is a sky vacuum and there isn't a container. There's no demonstration, and the claim, in its essence, his response, in essence, is a violation of natural law. Don't know. His assertion would imply that we have a vast space for the gas to fill, but it just isn't filling it. Well, that's a violation of entropy. Entropy would increase, the gas would fill the space. Based on his standards, he's got a violation of natural law as an explanation for his fundamentalist sky vacuum belief. So no, his assertion violates the second law of thermodynamics.
I got it. Thanks, man.
Anybody got
And
anything to
before
add?
he tries another silly response, remember this is the same guy that tried to post, what's his name? Hillbilly Blue Balls?
Hillbilly blue balls. Yeah.
Right. That was trying to prove gas
Yes,
pressure
without a
without a
container.
container using two containers. I don't know how that works out in your brain, but pipe
You
is a
just don't
container,
understand,
buddy.
Jock.
No,
Hey,
I
Nathan.
understand. I get it.
Well, let me fill the audience in because that was quite a comical little turn of events. So, Andrew Thomas Young's promoting his book Falling Flat, and he does a radio interview and says that the flat earth people who have asserted that they cannot debunk flat earth, therefore are flat earthers, simply haven't done enough research. What they've actually done is just gone out and done a Google search, and then that isn't looking to him for the information, that's just doing a Google search, you pathetic flat earthers. I'm paraphrasing. Nevertheless, first question, Nathan Thompson goes up to him at the conference, at the Flat Earth conference, and says to him, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Stone cold silence. What he then proceeds to do is go on Google and give us the first result, which is a moron called Blue Marble Science, fondly referred to as the redneck retard. Now, he's declared that he's got a demonstration in his title of gas pressure without a container. No, he hasn't. He's just a moron. But that was what this guy who's criticised flat earthers for doing a cursory Google search, that's what he came up with after his cursory Google search, which was just beautiful and ironic in every single mouthful. Oh, delicious.
Hey, Nathan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you referenced Andrew Thomas Young when you meant Danny Faulkner, right?
I did. I knew I'd done it while I said it, and I meant to correct it then just forgot. I meant Danny Faulkner. when I said Andrew Thomas Young. Minor correction.
Yeah, speaking of Danny Faulkner, he said that an airplane wing proves a vacuum. And he described it as the lower pressure on the top of the plane wing versus the lower. So he is not explaining what a vacuum is. He's just trying to say it's less pressure is a vacuum, which is nonsense.
It's
That's
Delta
funny
X.
because you know where I heard that from
It's Delta
before
X
him.
again. It's a
I
gas
heard
pressure
that here in the trenches.
I talked
So,
over all of that.
radio check.
Say that again, Chocolate.
I'm
I
sorry.
talked all over you. Go ahead, Chocolate.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was saying that before I heard Danny Faulkner say that, I heard that here in the trenches. Like right at the point when I said, look, they're trying to redefine what a vacuum is.
Yeah, you caused
Radio
some
check.
feedback. Yeah, you just turned your mic way up and it's caused a load of feedback. We heard you the first time.
Radio check.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Just
Got
very,
a
very loud.
question. Got a question.
Go ahead.
The question that is put out to them is, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Read Dr. Danny Faulkner's first sentence again, please.
For me?
Yes.
Right. He said there is a pressure gradient in the atmosphere.
Stop.
With the greatest. Okay.
There's a pressure gradient. This is a red herring fallacy because he's already starting with gas pressure gradients, isn't he? Right? He's starting with delta X. We're asking where you got X from. Can you have delta X without X?
No.
Thank you. And his appeal to vacuums, what vacuums are, is just a silly little countermeasure 2 steps removed from a train wreck.
Yeah, precisely. Very, very succinctly put, Quantum Eraser. So he's asking for delta X. In other words, when we ask how we could have gas pressure here on Earth if the sky was a vacuum, his response is to start by saying, we have gas pressure here on Earth, but if I put a plane wing through that gas pressure that we've got on Earth, assuming the sky's still a vacuum in my example, it's just like, no, we don't want to know about a plane wing going through the gas pressure that would all be vacating into the sky vacuum. That plane wing is just a red herring. We want to know how we would have gas pressure in the first place if we didn't have any containment. So it's a red herring. Delta X rather than X. X being gas pressure. Delta X being gas pressure gradients. And with that, I'll say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!